Tucson Handyman, how landlords find a good one. So before you let a handyman touch your rental, stop for just a second. There are 11 things you need to check first, and most self-managing landlords skip every single one. Hi, Steve Schultz here from Blue Fox Properties. Let's get to it. So to begin this process, I recommend that you set up an in-person meeting with the handyman so you can make some observations and ask some questions. So here are the 11 things you're looking for. So number one, they have a professional appearance, including their clothes and vehicle. The thing you got to remember here is these are people that are going to be going into the tenant's house. And so you want to make sure the tenants feel comfortable letting that person in the house. So you want somebody that looks professional, their vehicle looks professional, instead of showing up in like just beat up clothes, beat up vehicle, and they're wondering like, what the heck am I going to do? Why would I want to let this person in my house, right? So you got to make sure they have a professional appearance, both in their clothes and in their vehicle. All right, number two, they act professional and respectful with you and the tenants. So again, you want to make sure that when they are talking to the tenants, they are professional and respectful, and they don't come across as just being real jerks, right? Because you got to remember, this handyman out at the property represents you as the landlord. Number three, they are responsive. So in this scenario, you want to make sure that they're responsive when you give them a call and need help at the property. You know, maybe they can't get there today, but they at least let you know, hey, I can be there in 3 days, or whatever the case may be, right? So they have to be responsive to your inquiries. Number four, they are available during normal business hours. Now this might sound obvious, but one of the things we see a lot is a landlord that wants to use Cousin Joe to be the handyman, right? And so they say, well, Cousin Joe can only work on the weekends because he has a full-time job during the week, and so if things need to be repaired, it needs to wait till Saturday or Sunday. Well, that just doesn't work for a lot of things, and in particular for things that may be addressed through the Arizona Residential Landlord-Tenant Act that have specific time frames as it relates to responsiveness. So you got to make sure they are indeed available during normal business hours. Now, before we move on to the next item, if you don't want to deal with finding a handyman yourself or anything else as it relates to the property, contact us about managing your Tucson rental house, and perhaps we are a fit for you. So number five, they have the proper insurances. In particular, I'm talking about workers' comp and liability. Now, these are two things that most landlords never even ask about, and a lot of people are lucky because something never happens. But if something does go sideways and the handyman gets hurt at the property or says or does something ridiculous, you could be sued. So you really got to be careful, make sure they have the proper insurances. Number six, you can access them via phone and email, not just text. So why is email important? Because in our business, a lot of things have to do with documenting what happened, who said what, and everything that went along with the situation. So you want to make sure you have records of that. Now you think, well, in text, I can capture that too. Well, maybe. You know, are you saving those texts? Are those easy to get to? Should you need to refer to them, 5 years from now? I would suggest you probably not. So really recommend email for you as far as communications and being able to track everything. Number seven, they don't have to be paid in cash. So this is a big red flag, right? Like, are you in business for the long term, or what's going on here, right? Like, why do you need cash? And the other thing too, you want that paper trail again to confirm that you did indeed pay them, and what did you pay them for, and all those types of things. Number eight, they don't need to be paid daily. They can do net 30 invoicing. So here, the idea isn't that we want to delay payment or not pay the handyman. That's not at all the idea. But again, it's a red flag if every day after they do work, they show up at your office or wherever you're located and say, okay, I just finished that, I need to be paid. Because again, that ties into the longevity potentially of that handyman. Will they be here a week from now if you need to call them back on a property to redo some work that maybe they messed up or something went wrong? Number nine, they have a long-term track record, so you know they will be around in the future. And so maybe you want to ask for references or referrals, and maybe that's how you heard about this person to begin with. That's great. So you want to make sure, again, as I just mentioned, they are in it for the long term should you ever need them to come back to the property to do any work. Number 10, they know how to speak to tenants, so they don't get you in trouble from a liability perspective. So this is a common one that can really go sideways with tenants. So sometimes there might be a handyman in a property and the tenant's trying to talk to him, and the tenant asks them, hey, well, what about this? What about that? Is the landlord going to fix this, do that? And in the interest of the handyman just being able to stop the conversation, sometimes what they'll say is, yeah, that'll all get taken care of. Well, what the tenant just heard was, yes, that is now the landlord's commitment to do those things. things. So it sounds kind of silly, but we have seen situations where handymen have gotten landlords in trouble in that regard from a liability perspective. So you want to make sure they know that when it comes to talking to the tenant, facts, just the facts, and just specifically about the items that they are addressing at the property at that time. All right, and last but not least, number 11, they are not specialists. They can complete a wide scope of work. So you want to make sure the handyman can do a wide scope of things, from sheetrock repairs to maybe just clearing a clogged sink and kind of everything else in between. They got to be able to do a lot of different things to have the most value to you as a landlord. All right, so once you think you found a good one, then test them on a few jobs. Test their communication abilities, check their work, follow up with the tenants to get insight into their experience and what they saw when the handyman came out to the property. All right, so that's it for finding a good handyman. Don't forget to subscribe below, and I'll see you on the next video.